U.S. President Joe Biden made his first address since his decision to drop out of the 2024 presidential race. Rebuffing weeks of pressure from Democrats to step aside, Biden, in his address to the nation, explained his decision to pass the torch and end 2024 candidacy.
My record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. That's the best way to unite our nation.
In a solemn address marking the end of his political career, Biden also added that the nation's democracy lies in the hands of voters and the sacred task of perfecting union is about Americans and their families.
I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have.
Towards the end of his speech, Biden praised and thanked Vice President Kamala Harris for being an incredible partner and a leader of the country.
In just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country.
Biden pledged to work towards ending the war in Gaza and bringing home Americans held in prisons around the world.
We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world.
All right, Benji Iyer joins us with more from Washington. Benji, good morning. Now, pointing to the high points of his current presidency, Biden did somewhat gave a hint that he kind of deserved to continue. But at the same time, he called his exit not for his own good, but for the good of the party and the country. How do you evaluate or how do you gauge the crux, the essence of Biden's address from the Oval Office?
Well, I think ultimately this was an inevitable, yet soft, stoic, somber, sobering address that was frankly historic. It is not often in American history that someone sits behind the desk in the Oval Office and gives details, sheds lights on a decision to withdraw from the presidential race. Joe Biden did that, not giving specifics necessarily on how he came to this decision so quickly, following defiance from the White House for days, weeks, about his ability to serve amid concerns over his fitness for office. But he did speak to recognizing that in this moment, with so much at stake, with democracy at stake, he says, it is the best thing to do to pass that torch to the next generation. And I think that this speech was therefore centred on selflessness from a man who has served in the public realm for close to 50 years. He said this job was the privilege of his life, that he gave his heart and soul to the nation. There was genuine gratitude for that and an understanding that anyone can come from anywhere and reach the very top in this country. But ultimately it is the people who decide and the power rests in their hands. And that really was the warning going forward, that there is a real battle in this country now between what he says is hope v hate, unity versus division. And ultimately, people now of America have that choice in November to decide in which direction to go. Of course, whilst it is time for Joe Biden to step aside as a candidate and he won't serve a second term, he is still going to see out his first term in office, which means he'll continue to be president until January. And that time, he says that he will prioritise civil rights, people's right to vote, people's right to choose, and abortion, highlighting political violence, gun violence, Supreme Court reform, foreign policy in regard to Ukraine and other conflicts around the world, and importantly, instill confidence, or at least he tried to instill confidence that he remains up to the task. He spoke about those legacy and his achievements in the past, taking the country from the depths of the pandemic, from economic ruin in the midst of COVID-19, trying to unite this nation following the attack on democracy after the 2020 election, and tackling climate change as well. In doing so, he endorsed Kamala Harris to try to continue what the administration is trying to do in this country in what was a remarkable speech, prime time, this Wednesday night.
All right, Benji, Biden also called Kamala Harris tough, capable and experienced. To what extent will this endorsement strengthen Kamala Harris's run in the race?
Well, it's already over the run. I mean, she is the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party. Joe Biden's endorsement, other endorsements from congressional heavyweights, effectively paving her way towards sealing enough delegates to become the candidate that the Democratic Party will no doubt have top of the ticket come November to face off against Donald Trump. She is already very much on the campaign trail. This is a signed, sealed, delivered part of the campaign, at least. It seems like Kamala Harris will ultimately be the woman trying to win the White House against Donald Trump. And, of course, that endorsement from Joe Biden straight after announcing his withdrawal from the race over the weekend was the very thing that set all this in motion.
All right, Biden also said that there is no place in America for political violence or any other violence. He made a veiled attack at the failed assassination attempt on Trump. So what connotation or how do we understand this with regard to, the presidential race or the scenario, the political scenario in the U.S.?
Well, the administration has been very firm in condemning political violence. The January 6th attack, 2021, on the heart of American democracy, the US Congress, the attempted assassination on Donald Trump. Ultimately, there was a call from Joe Biden to try to bring down the temperature in this campaign, which was already volatile, which was already fractious, and then ultimately was descending into political violence. And so, I don't know whether that call will be heeded, certainly by either side on the political spectrum, but certainly it's important, especially that it comes from the president at the very top, to make sure that the tone is proper in this nation, and that this doesn't become anything that is on the brink of anything that we've seen last weekend during that attack on the Republican nominee and former President Donald Trump.
All right, Benji. Now, President Joe Biden put forth a number of high points, or as you call it, the legacy of his presidency. Having said that, he also put forth some challenges that have to be, looked ahead. Be it the war in Gaza, be it the Ukraine war. He also talked of how America needs to stand united and not divided at this point in time. So when we talk of the new president, whoever be it, what would be the challenges that will be faced by the new president, whosoever wins the presidential race? To take on from where Biden left.
They come in with a remarkable entree, don't they? Both domestically and in terms of foreign policy. It depends really what Joe Biden can achieve in the next 6 months. Is he able to try to arrange a ceasefire in Gaza? Is he able to try to coalesce around NATO in defensive Ukraine? He says that he will aim to try to counter gun violence. Are we going to see any formative gun control in America? That seems unlikely. He will continue, he says, to push for the cure for cancer, something that scientists have been trying for a very long time. So it is doubtful that all of the issues he highlighted are going to be fully resolved come the inauguration, and they may fall to the responsibility of whoever his successor may be. But this is greater than just a couple of issues facing the United States or short-term challenges. This, Joe Biden is trying to sell the message, at least, that this is a fight for democracy and the future of the nation as a whole, and that much is at stake in this election.
All right, Benji, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details and that analysis.